Hmm? Ah! Hmm.
Hey, Marissa. How you doing?
You have a lot of nerve showing up here.
What?
You could have at least called, said, Marissa, hey, it's not going to work out. Sorry I wasted your time. I'm a dick.
Yep. I'm sorry. Maybe we could go out again next week.
Hey everybody, I'm Rima.
And I'm Shawn.
And this is Strange Indeed, a podcast dedicated to the show Stranger Things.
Today we will be covering the third episode from Season 1 titled Chapter 3, Holly Jolly.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I think it's going to be great. You ready to jump into our top 5?
Let's do it.
All right. So I'll start off my top 5. I have to just start off with the opener. I think that's a good place to begin, is the opening scene where poor Barb, all of a sudden she just wakes up. She looks awful. She's like bleeding and looks dirty. And I mean, when we last saw her, she looked fine, before she got snatched by whatever snatched her. And she just looks awful. She's like bleeding and she starts like choking up some water, like after you've like been in a swimming pool and gotten choked on some water. The environment is obviously like super different. And to me, it was like so creepy because I don't know if you are familiar with at least the first one, the first video game from Silent Hill. Did you ever play that?
Oh, no, but that, I saw the movie, yeah, so that, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, so yeah, they kind of put it in the first movie as well. And the movie was not as good, but the video game, the first one anyway, scared the hell out of me. And a lot of it was because of that. It was like this dark grayish environment, and there was like this, and I don't know what this stuff is, but in Silent Hill it was like ash. And I don't know what this was, but that creepy stuff floating in the air and just kind of some of it looked like it was like falling, and then some just looked like it was kind of floating. So it was just like, where the hell are we? What is she at? Where is she at? You kind of realize as she gets up, she's in, looks like the pool, but there's no water in the pool, and there's all this really weird stuff like growth all over the pool. She's screaming or like calling out for Nancy. There's this creature behind her that scares the hell out of her and me at the same time. I don't know what the hell. It looks to be like that same thing that was after Will. Totally freaking me out. Poor Barb, screaming her head off. Nancy's too busy getting her thing on with, like you like to call him, the douchebag, Steve.
Steve the D.
The D. Yeah. I'll just call him the D-bag. But yeah, she's too busy. It's like she kind of hears her. You can kind of see where she's like, oh, what was that, but yet she's still too busy doing her thing and doesn't hear poor Barb screaming. That whole scene, I like how when they open it up, it's like, because we ended that last scene, she's just gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, what just happened? It's like you blink. If you blinked, you missed it. And then they open it right away with, okay, well, we're seeing at least kind of what happened. We don't know exactly. We don't have the whole picture, but we at least see. We're not sitting here wondering, well, what happened there? So that really, it scared the hell out of me. That creature thing scared the hell out of me. Her screaming, you could really feel it, her terror that she was feeling. So that's my number 5 so far. What did you think of that scene?
So, I mean, that's kind of tied into my number 5 as well. I had the intros part of it. But yeah, it's a situation where Barb wakes up and you're like, oh shit, here's Barb. And I thought she was in some kind of like cavern or, some kind of enclosure that she wouldn't be able to get out of. Because there's vines all over the place and she's trying to figure out how to climb out. It's like, well, maybe she's in a hole and then she's, it's cutting back and forth between, this gray world where, you don't know where this is. And it cuts to Steve the D and Nancy getting busy. And I don't know if probably in the episode they probably stretched out like the time of it happening, but any high school boy I know is not going to last longer than probably a minute and a half tops. So this scene had to have happened really, really quickly.
Is that coming from experience, Shawn? Come on.
I plead the 5th.
It's okay, plead the 5th, okay.
It's like 2 minutes tops now, so I've improved a ton.
Nice.
Put that on the internet. But yeah, but then you see her kind of climbing, and she grabs a hold of what looks like a ladder. So I'm like, oh, okay. So she's like, maybe she's in a sewer, or what is she in? And as she climbs up, you see, she's in the pool, and it's this whole like idea of like alternate reality kind of thing. Like you said, like I didn't think of Silent Hill until you mentioned it, but it's very much like that Silent Hill. Like you're there, but you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're like in between worlds. And like you said,
Right.
she screams. Nancy kind of hears her, but Steve the D's like, "Oh, you're so hot! Like, this is gonna be awesome." And so the comment I put on here first, like when you see her, I should have probably mentioned this first, but like I just said like, "Oh shit, Barb," because instantly like something's not gonna be going good for her. Let's see. But so the only interesting thing that I kind of caught, I'm not sure if it means anything or not, but as you see Barb climbing out of the pool, she grabs the side railing of the pool right outside of that
Mm-hmm.
big bar, and she's got her hand gripped on it super tight. And as they cut back to Steve, the D, and Nancy, Steve had her hand pinned down as they were kind
Oh.
of doing what teenagers do.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm not sure if like so I'm trying to like okay, I'm analyzing this more analytically. What are they trying to tell us here? And I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if like this is kind of like both of them are kind of losing their innocence to an extent or something along those lines because I'm guessing this is Nancy's first time being with a guy and I'm guessing this is Barb's first time with a monster.
Right. I hope. Yeah, that's a really interesting observation. I don't think I picked up on that at all. That interesting parallel, like you said, with their hands like that. That's interesting. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, and you can always
Yeah,
take
the definite difference between because like I said, they kept cutting between what was going on with Steve and Nancy in his bedroom versus what's happening to Barb. You have Barb in this extreme a horrible situation and she's scared for her life and she's trying to get away, and you have Steve and Nancy up in the room, without a care in the world, just kind of doing their thing and kind of lost in the moment. So it's definitely a contrast between those two and what's happening. Wow.
let's see. So yeah, just to kind of well, I guess do you have anything else to add on your number 5 on that or is
No,
that
that's all that I have. What's your number five?
So mine was the intro still. So we kind of talked a little bit about it on Barb. But I was going to kind of cut into. So after we see this whole situation happen with Barb, Barb gets pulled back into the pool by the monster. We see Nancy sitting on the edge of the bed, and it's one of those things that I wasn't a teenage girl, so I didn't experience this, and I'm sure it's a very just awkward moment. The first time. Again, I'm guessing this is the first time Nancy's been with somebody.
I think that's probably a safe assumption. Yes.
And like you see Steve, who this isn't his first time, so he's kind of like laying in bed sleeping. Like the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, she's just another notch in the belt. Like, she's
Mm-hmm.
gonna show up at school, he's gonna totally ignore her. And the other kind of interesting moment was like when she comes home, her mom's like, why were you out so late? And her mom's not dumb. Like parents aren't dumb.
Right.
She knows something was going on. It's like, oh, well, why didn't you call? And that's the thing I find interesting too, is like you look back in the 80s, like, today, like if your kid doesn't call, they have no excuse.
Right.
You can be like, why didn't you text? Why didn't you call? Oh, my phone was. No, you have your phone on you 24/7. Anytime I
You
look at
posted
you,
on Facebook 15 minutes ago.
that's a good point too. You can Facebook stalk your kids and know what's going on.
Yeah.
But this was back in the day, like you could legitimately lie and get away with it. It's like, oh, there's no phone. Oh, I lost track of time.
Oh, it was the
Um,
best.
I actually got some pretty decent leeway with my folks because they knew I'd work all the time. So if I was out to like 12:31, I was usually with my girlfriend. So they're like, well, he's not out partying, so at least we'll give him that much. But when you kind of see that happen, like her mom knows something's up, and it goes back to where her mom said this to Mike, where she's like, hey, you can tell me anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm there for you. And both times I legitimately feel like if Nancy wanted to sit down and be like, hey mom, this just happened, it wouldn't be a judgment conversation of like, oh my gosh, why'd you do that? He's just using you, blah blah blah. Like it seems like the mom would have actually been there for him.
Yeah, I totally got that too. She seemed really genuine in wanting her kids to be open with her and knowing that they could come to her and talk to her. And I really appreciate that because, I think we all as parents try to at least most of us, I think, want that, open relationship with our kids and be able to talk to them because, I mean, we see what happens when parents don't have good communication with their kids and keep things open, and that it doesn't usually turn out so well. So I can appreciate that. And I agree with you. You could totally see in her face, and I can't believe she admitted that was Steve's sweatshirt.
Yeah. So are you and Steve dating now? No.
I mean, well, you're wearing a sweatshirt. I mean, I don't care. I don't buy that for nothing. I'll like, oh, I was cold and he let me borrow it.
Yeah.
Baloney. That is like a walk of shame
Yep.
giveaway. That's like coming home with your underwear turned inside out. Of course, your mom probably doesn't see that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Not that that's ever happened to me or anything. That's what I'm being told. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and the
Totally.
only other note I had was like these kids growing up, like, your parents aren't dumb. But in this family, the only dumb parent I think would be Ted. Ted again, like he'd be up and she'd come walking. He's like, "Oh, it's midnight. Oh, okay. Well, you're supposed to be home at 10. You're supposed to be home at 10."
Listen to your mother.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my number 5. Was tied into the whole Barb Nancy situation from the intro.
That's good. Good stuff. I like it. Awesome. Okay, so my number 4 is, and he keeps coming up again and again, but I have so much love for this character, and especially for the guy playing him because he does it so well, is Hopper. I really like what he's doing throughout all of these episodes. I love whenever he's in his truck and he has his I, I'm guessing deputies. I'm gonna call them deputies, just for the sake of this, talking about it. And he's kind of trying to smooth talk the guard, and the guard just ain't having it.
Yeah.
And he finally just like throws off his hat in exasperation, whether it was genuine or whether it was for show, which part of it was probably, surely true, I'm sure, but throws off his hat and tosses it up on the dashboard and tells this guy, he's like, "Look, I've got reporters breathing down my neck. I've got a mom, a hysterical mom. I've got this missing kid. Work with me here, guy." And he finally gets his way in. And I really like how he cuts like through the bullshit, like when he sees that he's looking at that, what little bit of that surveillance tape when he's at the facility.
Oh, that was so smooth. Yeah.
Oh, wasn't that just great? And he's like, he only seen snippets, but he saw just enough to remember that it was like storming and that tape didn't have any kind of rain on it at all. And he just like totally, he just cuts through the BS. And I really appreciate that because I don't like BS and I don't like to take it from people and I don't like to hear it. I just like to cut through and get to the point. And so I really appreciate that in him as a character. And I really loved at the library also. And he's walks in and he's just all casual, like, "Hey, you guys got newspapers here?" And the librarian, what's her name, Marissa, I guess.
Marissa, yeah.
So it's like, giving her whole spiel, like, "You never called me," and the look on his face, I don't know if you've ever been in a similar situation or not. I like to think you're a really nice guy, Shawn, and you've probably never done a girl that way, but, I don't know if you've ever been in a similar situation or had a friend in a similar situation, a witness like one of his deputy was. It was hilarious, that deputy, like, watching the interaction between the two was hilarious, but the look on his face, she's giving him crap, like, "Well, I'm just a dick," and he just looks at her like, "You want to go out sometime
He's
this
like,
week?"
"You want to go out next week?" I love, yeah, because it's the fact of like he knows, like he's like, "Yeah, I probably did you wrong, but like I wasn't trying to be a dick. I was legitimately maybe trying to have a good time, and one thing
Yeah.
led to another. And do you guys have newspapers here?"
Can we just get back to the newspapers, please?
I do love that. She's like, "Hey." It's like, "Oh, so you could have called and be like, 'Hey, blah blah blah. I'm a dick. I don't want to see you again.'" And yeah, then they start going into the whole newspaper piece of it, which they have that conversation in front of the thing where she's like, "Well, we got the Post and the Times." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, we're gonna start with the Times. How about you? Or you start with the Post, we'll work on the Times." And she's like, "Really?" Like,
Yeah, I really, really like him. I think that he has, just these, funny, kind of lighthearted moments that just make him seem more real and gives him more depth, I think, as a character, which I really like. And I just really like him as a character. I bring him up. I think I probably brought him up in the other episodes that we've discussed, but I really like him. I think he does a really great job. So I love to see him more and more. So
well, so far in this,
that's
like, he doesn't really have, like, he's not really, the only mystery about him is like, okay, well, what big city did he come from, and does he have a daughter, or what happened to her?
Yeah.
But I love the fact that even in this, you see it so much more. Like you see the flip. Like he's not small town cop Hopper who's just worrying about garden gnomes getting kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
Like his big city cop or his like skill is kicked in. That shows why he's the chief. Like the whole scenario where he's like, okay, he gets to the guard tower. He's like, hey, what's your name? He's like Patrick. He's like Patrick. I've got the newspaper down or newspaper hounded me. I've got the mayor down my back. I've got a really worried mom. Like we know the kid's not in there, but if we could just do a look around, that'll at least help us check this off our list.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, he sees that video, and even as a viewer, I'm like, well, this seems weird, but okay. As he gets out there, it's like whenever like sometimes your coworkers just don't quite get it sometimes as
Yeah.
you're trying to explain things to him, and that's exactly what happened there. He's like, so you saw the video, right? And guy's like, yeah, didn't see anything on it. He's like, you remember anything like interesting about that night that we were looking? No, not really. It was raining.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I guess it was raining. Did you see any rain on that tape? I don't remember. Well, it wasn't, so they're lying and something's going on. It's like, I need a little help, guys. Come on.
Yeah, the poor guy, those two deputies, we haven't got to see too much of them, but we saw them in the previous episode, kind of, oh, they slept together, right? They're just like, and he's like trying to keep it professional. It just seems like they are like the typical small town cops, and I think if this was left in their hands and he wasn't
Yeah, oh
on the
yeah.
scene, I mean, this would be a disaster. So I think everybody should be really grateful anyway, that as far as like Will's disappearance is concerned, should be grateful that he's around, because he's doing like real investigative work, and being professional, and he throws in some good character stuff in with it as well that makes him seem human. He's not just a character. He's I think just has some depth, and I really like him. So that's my number 4.
Cool. Let's see. So for my number 4, I have. So for my number 4, I had the situation where Elle is at the light pole. So it's 3:15, so she's out there, and on the other side of the fence we see a cat. And in this situation, the cat's hissing at her. So like we know Elle has some superpowers. She has some abilities, and we're trying to figure out where these came from, how she's harnessing them, and whatnot. And you start seeing those flashbacks again. And at first, what you see it kind of earlier, I guess. So it's really the cat and the Coke, I guess is the best way to put this one. So you see her watching a Coke commercial, and you see the flashback. She's sitting in a room. She's got stuff on her head, and you're trying to figure out what she's trying to do. And there's people watching her, and it's like an experiment type scenario. And all of a sudden, she just starts focusing on this can and crushes it. And you're like, oh, wow, well, like we knew she had powers, and now she can crush soda cans. Like this would be great at the recycling bins and stuff like that. Like she could be a great service to man. And so we go on our merry way, and she's back at the light post or the electric post, and we see the cat. We're like, oh man, so animals don't like her, right? And then they flash back again. You're like, huh, they got a cat in a cage with her, and they got that thing on when she was trying to crush oh no, they want her to crush the cat. Don't crush the cat. Please don't crush the cat. And you see like she's trying, but like the agony, like she has like some kind of moral compass that like she knows this isn't wrong. Like I know nothing about Elle, if she was raised as a baby in this place, or if she was kidnapped and brought here, or what, but in her mind she knows crushing this defenseless cat is the wrong thing to do.
Right.
And Papa is disappointed with it, and we get to see a scene of her getting dragged down the hallway. But she's like, no more. She doesn't want that. So they throw her in the cage, or in her like, solitary confinement. And this is where we see her powers go crazy.
Yes, wasn't that great?
Yeah, but I feel bad for the two guys, because it's like, well, I can't crush this defenseless cat, but these two guys who are just trying to earn a paycheck, they probably don't, they're probably like interns, like they're like trying to get their doctorate degree, and like, listen, I don't totally agree with this, but like I have to get this to get some credit. And she ends up throwing the one dude against the wall. And I was like, well, he probably survived. And then the other guy's like snaps his neck. I'm like, oh yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, he did not survive. And I'm not even sure about that guy that got thrown against the wall. Did you see the indentation in that
Yeah.
wall
Yeah,
after he
after he
fell?
walked away carrying it, I was pretty sure that he was a goner too.
Yeah, he is. I guess it's possible, but he's gonna be hurting the next day for sure. I don't think he's just gonna be able to walk that off.
But the sense I got of this is like, like a lot of people always talk about like dogs and how dogs, it's not a bad dog, it's a bad owner.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got that sense with this is it's almost like whenever you see like people who raise dogs to fight, like basically have these dog fighting rings.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is this little girl that, is has these powers, but she doesn't want to use them for evil. But this guy is like trying to see how far he can push her. And so Papa comes in. I don't know why she didn't kill Papa. So again, I'm really curious what the backstory is on that. Like he walks in and she knows that he's the puppet master. He's the one that's doing all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she ends up just kind of like falling into his arms. I don't know if because maybe she lost her, like overused her power or something because she was bleeding from
It
her nose and ear.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it does take something from her. And, that was certainly a great use of, I mean, crushing a Coke can is certainly, I won't downplay it because I certainly cannot crush a Coke can with just thinking about it. But crushing a Coke can versus slinging somebody with your mind up against a wall. And you could see there's some power behind that because you could see that very clear indentation in these, it wasn't concrete, but those brick walls, and then just with a tilt of her head, snap that guy's neck just by thinking of it. So you can see that kind of, like you said, her nose is bleeding, and I think that it probably really does like it takes energy, I think, to do that, whatever kind of energy you believe that to be. But I think that really takes it out of her, and I don't think that she wants to hurt Papa, whether or not that's her real Papa or she sees him as her Papa. She believes that to be her Papa. I mean, I don't think that she would turn that against him. He didn't seem to be fearful of her at all. He was very proud of her, for what she did. He didn't seem too upset by the loss of these gentlemen. I'm sure to him that was collateral damage.
Yeah.
But I don't think he didn't seem to be fearful of her at all. I didn't see fear in his eyes when he was like, "Oh hell, I better watch myself." He was very much, it's okay. I'm proud of you. That's what I wanted you to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting when he walked in because I think he only gave one word response. Like I don't know if I think it was incredible this time, not extraordinary like the last time.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I noticed too is that dude had some big hands. Like when he like was cupping her head, which was really weird and awkward, but like his hands were just ginormous, and he didn't look like a big guy when he was behind the window or anything like that. But in that moment, I don't know if that was like stunt hands to show some kind of like he has the upper hand, like he's just in control of the situation, or if that's like
Mm,
actually those dudes' hands. But they were
interesting.
ginormous.
I don't think I noticed that. I think of Millie Bobby Brown as just being kind of small. She's so maybe not petite as in short. I mean, she's a child, so clearly she's small, but she just seems like small structured,
Hmm.
and small boned and thin. That yeah, I think that's probably where I saw it. But I think that there, yeah, I think there's a possibility to kind of show his like dominance over her, because clearly I think there's some sort of dominance um, over her that she respects him.
Because it might have stuck out to me because I have small hands. Like I don't have huge hands. So whenever I see like a dude with big hands, I'm like, oh, that dude must be an alpha. So I've
Do
got
you
these little bitty hands.
do you have baby
I
hands,
do. They're
Shawn?
not huge. Like when I get sized for rings, they're like, all right, well, whoa, wow, yeah. All right, let's get the ladies' rings in here for this guy. He's gonna save some money on gold because he
Oh,
doesn't need much.
poor Shawn.
But yeah, that
That's
was my.
okay.
But yeah, that was my number 4 here. Was kind of the cat and the Coke scenario with L.
That's good. I like it. Very good observations. And I don't think I had that covered in mine, so I think I kind of touched on it a little bit in number one, but not quite in the way that you did. You have a really good perspective on it, so I like it.
The other thing, sorry,
Um,
I just going back through my notes. I apologize.
yeah. No, go ahead.
One of the other things, it's kind of later in the episode, and it may not be the best spot to put in here, but it ties in a little bit. Whenever they're riding the bikes and Mike had the cut on his chin,
Mm-hmm.
and she asked him, she's like, "Well, why did they hurt you?" And as she said that and he explained it to her, I'm like, he could ask you the exact same question. Like he could
Yeah.
ask you like, "Why are they hurting you?" I mean, he doesn't know her whole backstory yet, but it's the same thing. Like he knows some bad people are after him, so I mean, it's a two way street question kind of scenarios. Like, why are the bullies hurting you, Mike? And it's like, well, why are the bad people hurting you, L? Like it just went back and forth. And I thought that was kind of a interesting question that the person asking could also have been asked that exact same question.
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good observation. I didn't look at it that way, but you're exactly right because she's asking because like, well, why are they hurting you?
Hmm.
Or, because she's like, there are people hurting her. So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
a good point too. Yeah. So maybe she's trying to get an understanding. Okay, like you have a relationship with these normal people.
yeah,
Maybe if I can understand that, I can understand why Papa was hurting me.
right. Interesting. Hopefully answers to come, right?
I hope
Hopefully.
so. We still have to figure out what that goop is. I didn't figure anything out in this episode.
No answers for the goop. It's okay. We have a good handful of episodes to go. We're hoping for answers to the goop. And listeners, if you got answers on that goop, let us know. I'm sticking with the ectoplasm thing from like Ghostbusters. The snotty stuff. It's totally. We're gonna keep revisiting that. We're not gonna let that go. Okay, so my number 3 is Joyce. Wow, Winona Ryder is just like so amazing as Joyce. It's just she plays this character of this mom with a missing child so brilliantly. I don't know that I could do it better, and Winona Ryder doesn't even have children, so like whatever she's drawing from or inspiration or whatever she's doing to get that acting ability out of her and to be able to do that, I think is amazing because I don't think that I would be able to do the same. Of course, I'm not a professional actor by any means, but I think she's doing so fantastic, and I think everything that she does, in this whole episode is on par. If your kid is missing, she's she's a little bit fanatical. She's off kilter. She can't think straight. She's smoking constantly. She's acting a little bit crazy, but she's desperate and she's not getting any answers. I mean, nobody has absolutely any answers as to what's happening to her son. So she's grasping at whatever straw that is out there and makes sense to her, like this communicating with the lights. And she goes back to her store and tells her boss again, just ring me up, Donald. Just like, just don't even start with me. Just, and if he's smart, he won't, because I'd hate to see how she would react if he actually did say something to her. But she buys out the entire stock of Christmas lights at the store that she works at. She hangs them up all over her house, which I thought was, in a sad way, it was kind of beautiful. I love Christmas lights. I thought it was kind of sad as to why she was doing it, and because her child is missing and she's believing that and I think that she is, kind of communicating with her son. It's what it seems like with Will. I like how she drew the alphabet on the wall to coincide with the Christmas lights. It reminded me, and this totally freaks me out. People out there, don't mess with Ouija boards, but that's what it reminded me of. Was like a DIY Ouija board.
Yeah, I was kind of calling it like a Will G board. Dun-dun-ch.
Oh, you're so clever. That's really good. I hadn't thought about that, but that's the same thing. What came to my mind, when trying to speak to someone that you can't really talk to you, but is able to somehow communicate. That's what it really reminded me of. And I thought, people are giving Joyce hell for being cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. A lot of the townspeople are, saying things about her and stuff. But, I thought that was kind of smart of her. I don't know that I would have thought of that, to like go get some paint and have those lights and do what she did, doing what she thinks is best, to try and communicate. And when she has the ball of Christmas lights, as she's cuddled in that cabinet, and has this huge ball of Christmas lights, and she's communicating with Will. At least we believe it to be Will. I think, in my opinion, it is. And just she just, you can feel it. It's genuine. It's like that ecstatic, as she's communicating and getting the answers. She puts up the alphabet on the wall. He's telling her, "I'm right here." What does that mean? And it makes you think of the opening scene with Barb.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
it's like this, it's like she's there, but she's not there. You can see finally when she starts coming out of that pool, she is there in that pool where she just was when she disappeared, and you can see the house, but clearly she's there, but not there. And then when you see Will, and she's like, "Will, where are you?" And he spells out "right here." And it's like, oh, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Is Will in the same place that Barb was? Like, he's there, but he's existing somewhere, but not quite on the same plane or dimension that she's at. And then when he tells her to run, I don't know, man. I'm telling you, freaky creatures climbing out of walls or
Oh yeah.
climbing out of anything, just sorry, I can't do it. Like, it reminds me of like The Ring. And Samara climbs out of the TV. I don't know if you've ever seen The Ring. And,
Yeah, yeah, I
you know,
have.
yeah, I mean, that sticks with you. Or at least me. I still see it to this day, and I haven't seen the movie since it came out. I can't watch it again. And sorry, people, if you haven't seen The Ring yet, I think there's a time limit on spoilers. I'm sorry. So sorry if that ruins anything for you. Go watch it. But I can't deal with that. That just it like brings chills at my spine, and it raises the hair on the back of my neck, and I can't take it. So seeing that thing climb out of the wall was absolutely terrifying. She took it way better. I don't know if she's on a little something, like if she's smoking more than cigarettes or something, but
Yeah, that would
I
make it
think
a
she
lot
handled it.
freakier for sure.
Yeah, that might make her. I don't know, but that's my number three is just Joyce. Her whole interaction throughout, with the other people on the show when she has and I can't think of her name. I know it, and I'm not thinking of it. But Mike's mom, who comes over with her little girl Holly, and she's like trying to interact with her and trying to be polite, but then she then like throws her out. Like, I'm sorry, you have to leave.
Yeah, and so when that happened, so like the little girl saw what she saw. So like she's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like this little girl saw it, and she's trying to get it out of her what it was. And I don't know if like when I told her when she was telling, I think her name's Karen. She's like, Karen, you have to leave. I
Hmm.
thought she was gonna then say, but your daughter has to stay.
She's gonna help me communicate.
But I mean, to add on, so my number three, I kind of tagged just with the lights. So it's kind of the same thing you're talking about, where it's a cool progression because at first she sees like it's the light bulbs on the lamps, and
Hmm.
she's not really getting like actual communication across except just that somebody's there. So then she's like, okay, I'm gonna build this whole light thing in the house, and then she sees this ball of lights. She's like, oh, we can do yes or no with this. And I kind of like that they did that because, I don't think as a normal person you would go right to a Ouija board style light setup.
Hmm.
So she kind of gets that like, oh, yes or no. And like, are you safe thing? Like, I mean, it definitely like you knew what she was going to ask and what the answer was going to be before she asked it. So it wasn't really surprising. At least to me, it wasn't. She asked like, hey, are you there? It's like a yes. And it's like, are you safe? It's like, well, of course he's not safe. It's going to blink twice.
Hmm.
And then she goes and creates the Wilgy board, and she asks, "Where is he?" I'm right here, and I can't remember what the next question was. Maybe it was like, "What should I do?" or something like that.
Yeah.
And right when that happened, I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna say, are you in?" It's gonna say, "Are you in?" And you see "are," you're like, you,
Yep.
in." Oh, run, Nancy!
No, no,
Or
no.
run, Joyce, run. But kind of tagging on too with that light, so you see that thing come from the wall, and like you're talking about with the ring and the TV, like walls are safety, like walls and fences are like these things that are kind of, you know, give you that false sense of safety.
Hmm.
And then like for something just to like come right through that wall, that's like every, probably primitive fear that we have is like our home, our protection, like this little, you know, safety net we've built ourselves is now being basically invaded in some way. And
Hmm.
that's what you see with this monster coming through. And, she did the right thing again. Like, we saw her in last episode. She ran right out of the house when some bad stuff was happening. And this time she did the same thing, except she didn't turn around and come back. She kept running as far as she could go.
Yeah, because this time, like the last time it happened, she just saw like because it was still behind the wall. She just saw like it like protruding out and just saw like the shape or the profile of it. This time it actually came out of the wall. So
Yeah, you see it kind of start coming through, then it rips, and yeah, it's game over with that. Like you don't stick around to talk with that thing.
no, that is one freaky kind of creature that just looking at it, almost alien-esque, kind of has that kind of not the head so much, but like body shape to it, where it has this really like distorted long limbs and like long like fingers and just really just kind of freaky and just you just know it's not right. It's
Yeah,
just not right and it's not supposed to be there.
it's semi-humanoid, but it's kind of like whenever you think of aliens, where they got kind of like the long head, but Yeah, it's just does not sit well.
No, and you made a really good point of how it like feels like it's, like you said, it's like your home is your safe place, and to have that invaded, it just that's almost more terrifying than just anything. That I think that just amplifies the terror of the situation, not just this creature coming through, but how it's coming through and how you're not safe anywhere.
I think what's else, like you were saying earlier with Joyce too, like she puts all these lights all over and Karen comes out. And it was kind of beautiful in a way. Like if you're Karen showing up, she's like, oh, hey, Joyce is telling Karen this, like, I put these lights up because, Will loves Christmas. He loves Christmas lights. So I hope that, by doing this, he'd be happy to come home kind of thing. And like as a mother, like coming to another mother that's missing her child, it'd be like, oh my gosh, like, that's so sweet, but so sad because like you don't, is he gonna come home? Like I hope he's okay and he's gonna come home, but
Yeah.
and she's like, well, I brought you a casserole.
I know. And I mean, I really, really like her character too, Karen. She's like this really great mom, it seems, from the parts that we've seen with her kids. And she's reached out to both her children and has, like, I'm here if you want to talk to me. And you can tell that she really cares about them and what's going on in their lives. And she's trying to do the best that she can, because it almost like she's a little bit of a single parent.
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with her husband, who's just kind of like, I work and I bring home the bacon, and I'm just gonna go sit in my recliner and veg out the rest of the evening. So it really seems like she's doing the majority of the parenting, and then she also goes and reaches out to Joyce, and it doesn't, and you don't see whether or not other people have done it, and we haven't seen it, whether it's been relevant, but we saw her reach out to Joyce, and she's so far the only person that we've seen reach out, as a parent in the community, because it seems to be a small town. Isn't that what small town folk are supposed to do, is pull together?
Hmm.
But it seems like everybody's kind of looking at Joyce because she's like the oddball, or she's a little different or eccentric, or, she's just a little different or whatever. That I thought it was kind of sad that, you see it's just like her and her son are on their own. I mean, Hopper's been really great as far as like trying to help her out and stuff, but he's out trying to do the work to try to find Will. He can't be like there holding her hand.
Yeah.
So you just see her and her son are having to go through this together, and you don't see the community pulling together. They did pull together. There were people searching, but you don't see anybody sitting there, trying to help her, talk to her, and just be there. There's not a lot you can do or say in that kind of situation, because it's absolutely every parent's nightmare to have your child go missing. So I certainly couldn't think of any words of comfort if I knew someone in that situation, but just being there can sometimes be enough. You don't see anyone else doing that, but, and even though, you can kind of joke about the casserole, which it is kind of, it's like, well, I brought you a casserole. It was still, she took the time, out of her day to go do that. And I thought that was really sweet. And I really like her character. Thought that was really nice. That kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent.
Oh no, I mean
Points,
that's
but
a great. I mean, because their kids were friends, and like you don't see any of the other boys as friends or parents coming over to help out.
yeah,
And food kind of is that like excuse to go to somebody in need. Like if you go to funerals and thing, usually you bring food to the person that's impacted by that, because it's kind of just a good excuse to stop by and like, hey, I'm just checking to see how you are. Because that always can seem kind of awkward. It's like, oh, hey, I thought you might be hungry, so I brought you some food.
mm-hmm.
But really, I'm here to check to see how you are.
Exactly. Yep, you're right. It's food is a good excuse, because in the end you do have to eat.
Hmm.
You got to be able to keep up your strength. It's like in the previous episode when he was trying to get his mom to eat breakfast and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat," and he's trying to force her, because obviously you cannot keep going at the pace you're going without eating something, even though that's the last thing you're thinking about, in that kind of situation. But there is truth to that. But yeah, you're right. It's a really good point.
Let's see. Yeah, so my number 3, just kind of tagging on to yours, was just the lights with Joyce.
Nice. Yep, love those lights. So my number 2, just kind of in general, it's not too specific a point, but kind of going back to the facility and current events. You see Dr. Brenner and other staff that work there at the facility in these hazmat suits, and they're in this room. See this like really weird portal looking hole in the wall. You only see a flash of it. You don't get a very good look at it, and it's really kind of brief. But he is like just staring at it, and there's this same like ashy stuff that's like floating around, like
Yeah.
falling and floating. And so you're like, ugh, okay. So we saw the opening scene right away with Barb. So that gives us, I think, pretty big clues, as we may not know exactly what's happening, but we obviously know that something is connected. And I think we probably know, I think, from other episodes that there's something obviously going on here, but I think this just really kind of ties it in. And I don't know, it was just, I didn't quite know what to make of him just standing in front of that, whatever that was, this portal. I don't know if it's like that's how you get in and out, if that's where this creature came from, and this is the opening to that, this gateway or whatever. And he's just staring in front of it. And I'm like, what is going through his head? I don't know. I didn't quite know what to make of that, because they're putting some sort of machine and they're drilling it into the floor so it can't go anywhere. And all this is happening around him, all this activity, and everybody's busy doing something. And he's just standing there like with his arms crossed staring at this. So I found that really interesting. And what Hopper found out during his investigative work at the library, where he connects Dr. Brenner to these questionable experiments with these kids, and this lawsuit, and this mother with another missing child, and or saying that he abducted her child, and so all of these things, it's like, what the hell is going on? What do these experiments, because we see 11 with these experiments happening at this facility. Now something has happened, that something seems like has opened up something, and then this creature has gotten out. So what's going on? What's he thinking? What does he know? How much does he know? He doesn't seem too questioning. It's almost like he, I don't know. What do you make of that? What's your take on that?
He doesn't seem too nervous about it. Like you said, he's just standing there watching, and we don't know, is this thing expanding, or is it kind of like encompassing all the current world, or is it, like you said, is it a gateway to get into this other place that I have no idea what it is? And I remember the ash kind of falling out. So are they in that same realm Barb is? Are they going between these worlds, or is it just that they're on the outside of it and it's starting to seep into our current world? And I think it's interesting, like you said with Hopper, I feel like he is dangerously getting himself in too deep with this. He's going to be the guy asking the wrong questions to the wrong people, and you're going to see what was it? What was the lady that was coming over to help out Benny? The child services. They're going to child
Oh,
services
yeah.
him basically and be like, oh,
Yep.
hey, we're here for bang, dead.
Yep.
And then no more Hopper, and I don't want that.
I don't either.
But yeah,
Love
it's just
him.
that whole thing there, there's more questions after each episode than answers.
Right. It's like they give you a little bit to kind of start tying things, and you can start making small connections, but you still have the same questions, if not more questions, like you said, after. So it's not a real specific. That's really all I have for number 2. It's just how we see, the experiments happening. You see this portal in the wall, and how you see the stuff floating around like you did in the beginning, where we saw Barb, and what is this place, and what does he know? He didn't seem too not concerned, but he didn't seem too nervous. He didn't seem too anxious about it. He's very, just staring at him like, what's going through your head, dude? So and then
Yeah,
what happened in your past, with these experiments? What are you trying to do? What did you do to cause this? I feel like he's somehow responsible for
yeah.
whatever's happened.
Well, that's interesting. It's like, okay, so what do you know? And then it's like, what are you trying to accomplish by this? Because just figuring out what this stuff is probably step one of a multi-phase, experiment that they're trying to do. Because, are they trying to, they're obviously trying to figure out powers, they're trying to harness L for something. So,
Mm-hmm.
are they trying to do the same thing for this? I think one of the deputies kind of threw out this is where they build the space weapons.
And those lasers.
Yeah, it's like, those laser things. It's like, don't listen to him. Ignore him is what Hopper says to the guy helping him around. But yeah, that's I'm pretty interested to continue to figure out what this facility is.
Mm-hmm. And what is going on? So that's my number 2. What do you got?
All right, so my number 2 is kind of a semi-sweet moment, but it's when you see Elle kind of walking around the house. So at first, she walks downstairs. You see the earlier thing we talked about with the Coke can, and she has a flashback. She's messing with the TV. She sees the old He-Man cartoon, which
Oh,
I
yes.
didn't watch He-Man. It was right before I say before my time, but it wasn't the big thing when I was in that cartoon
Mm-hmm.
age. It was the Ninja Turtles was what was my big thing.
Yeah.
She jumps in the Lazy Boy, so she gives that another whirl. And the other thing that was cool, so she picks up the phone, and as it's humming, she hums back to it, which I thought was pretty cute, because this is probably the first time she's ever had a phone to her ear.
Yeah, probably like what is this thing?
And finally, she makes her way up to Nancy's room, which I kind of felt like this is maybe when she walked in there, she's like, oh, well, this is what a normal girl is supposed to be like. You know, you've got your Tom Cruise poster on the wall, you got pictures all over. Which did you? So this is where we're going to get a little personal. Did you ever have a Tom Cruise poster on your wall?
No, I
No.
did not. I liked Tom Cruise, but not in the heartthrob way where you hang the poster on the wall, kind of way.
Uh,
I always did like him in the movies. I still enjoy whatever crazy batshit stuff that he does in his personal life. I don't care. The guy can put out some damn fine action movies, and I love action movies. So I'm still to this day a huge Tom Cruise fan. And that poster, I believe, was from Risky Business.
yeah, that probably would make sense.
Yeah, that movie came out in 1983, and
It's
yeah,
just
so
amazing that like that's what 20. Oh no, it's like 34 years ago now. Like,
maybe I'm not doing any math here.
but that the fact that like he's still a big deal 34 years later is
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
it's. I mean, say what you want about the man, and I'm not gonna go off on some Tom Cruise tangent, but hey, it speaks for itself. But yeah, I didn't. It's hilarious that you brought that up. I saw the same thing. I did not have a Tom Cruise poster. I had oh gosh, I don't remember exactly who it was. All I remember most, because I kind of started out early, it wasn't so much like actors and such. I was more into music, so I had all the rock stars on my walls. I didn't have as many like actors and such because I had more of the musicians. I was
Did you have
a
like Axl Rose and Slash and all those guys, or what bands did you have on your wall?
Well, the so so before Guns N' Roses debuted, they weren't on the scene yet. They existed, of course, but they hadn't come out on MTV yet. So I had my four walls and ceiling were covered in Bon Jovi. Don't judge me.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
for anyone, not you, Sean, but anyone out there, don't judge me. Was John Bon Jovi. And when he got married to his wife, they all got torn down that day. And like a few days, like sometime after that, it was like I was so upset. And then, yeah, one of the Sweet Child of Mine premiered on MTV, and it absolutely changed my life forever. And
Nice.
every Guns N' Roses and Axl Rose poster that you can imagine covered those four walls and ceiling as well. And I never looked back.
See,
Still my favorite band to this day.
I can't get behind Bon Jovi, but I can get behind Guns N' Roses. I was that
Yeah.
high school kid blaring all the GNR stuff when I was a kid. So,
Oh, Sean, we have got to listen to some music together. First
yep,
Corey Taylor, now Guns N' Roses.
that's right. I just learned, and this is definitely a side tangent. There's a band out of Scotland called Biffy Clyro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, okay. So music tangent. Sorry, everybody. But in St. Louis, Biffy Clyro was supposed to play their big festival there, and they're from Scotland, so they only come over here every now and then. So we had pit tickets. It was Biffy Clyro was like the third band. That's who we really want to see. I'm a huge Corey Taylor fan, so Stone Sour is going to be like the
Oh my
second band. So I was like,
God.
oh, it'd be freaking awesome to see them too. And the third band was going to be Soundgarden, and that show was supposed to happen like 3 days after Chris Cornell committed suicide.
Oh no.
So, I wake up like 2 days before we're supposed to head to the show, and it's like Chris Cornell, like all the news all over, and they end up
Mm-hmm.
canceling that show. So we didn't end up getting to go. But I guess that was kind of a long rant to say that Biffy Clyro is coming back to St. Louis, so we're actually gonna get to see them um, around Christmas time. So it'll be holly jolly for us there, I guess. But
Hey,
um,
that's my kind of Christmas. Nothing more than I like being at a concert, that's for sure. That's awesome. Good story.
that was kind of a long tangent, but
Well, we're allowed. It's okay. You get to talk about the concert stuff. I can blabber about who I had hanging on my walls. So that was your number two.
yeah. So my number two was, yeah, just Elle walking around. Um, so as she's investigating Nancy's room, you see like she sees the poster of Tom Cruise,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we go on that tangent because he's been around for 34 years.
Yeah,
Um,
amazing.
and the other thing you see is she's looking at the pictures on the wall, and you notice her noticing Barb, and
Mm-hmm.
she's never seen Barb up to this point, but somehow she know, at least it looks like she knows that Barb is somewhere she's not supposed to be, similar to
Mm-hmm.
Will. So I thought that was kind of cool to show like this is something that happened after she's even been out of the place she was. She's been out for a little while, but and then Barb was kidnapped after that fact, but she still has some kind of, connection to know that this happened.
That yeah, I think there's so much that you can kind of take from that too, and just that look on her face when she opened up the bedroom to Nancy's room, and you can just we've only seen her at the facility when she's like being forced to do these experiments, whatever those mean to the people who are making her do them, and she's in this hospital gown, and the only time you see her outside of that is when she's forced in this cell like room where it's just concrete walls. It's not even like any kind of there's no kind of like little bed or chair or anything for her. It's just like this cold concrete floor, and she's in this hospital gown. And she walks into Nancy's room, and it was like, wow, what is this? Is this how
Yeah.
people live? Like this is what a girl's room is supposed to be like. And I'm pretty sure, even though we haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure that's not the kind of room she has wherever she's at the facility, because I'm thinking it's probably very cold and clinical. She probably does not have a Tom Cruise poster hanging on her wall. She probably does
Probably
not.
not.
She probably does not have these cool, carefree pictures taken with her best friend, like Nancy had with her and Barb, or with other friends, or baby pictures. Even she's looking at some of her pictures. It looks like, I'm guessing anyway, it's Nancy as it when she was a little girl, along with the pictures of her and Barb together. And she was kind of looking. I'm like really studying them, like she didn't know what they are. Like, does she? How much exposure does she have? Are there other children at this facility? Does she socialized with other children? Is she always kept to herself? Is she only interacting with these people who are telling her to do these experiments? And what is her life like? And she gets to kind of see that a little bit, in this house and be exposed to that. And it's so sad to me. It was just really sad for her to see that, because it's like I bet she does not have anything like that at all. I bet it's just cold. I think of like some really cold clinical, like small hospital room is probably what she has. So I think that's really sad.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. Like her room was probably her room at the place is probably nothing more than a cot, maybe a toilet, probably
Maybe
a
like a
step.
jail cell or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. I was going to even say like maybe a step below a jail cell.
Yeah.
Jail cell. But yeah, so my number two is just kind of Elle kind of wandering and seeing kind of what the outside world has to offer.
Yeah. Kind of sad, probably a stark comparison to what she's used to. So, very good number two. Okay, so my number one are scenes from the show in this episode that are reminiscent of scenes from 80s movies, which I just can't
Ooh.
get enough of. I go back to this a lot, and I'm sure I will continue to do so because I'm absolutely fascinated with the show and all the 80s references and my nostalgia for the era. So, you mentioned earlier the flashbacks of Elle and those experiments and the things that they were making her do, which was very, to me anyway, very much like Firestarter. Have you seen Firestarter?
I have not. I just recently heard about what it's about, but no, I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, I won't like spoil too much of anything in there, but it's a Stephen King, so you need to check it out. I know that you love Stephen King, so definitely go check it out. It's a really, I liked it anyway. It was a fun, 80s movie. It probably wasn't the best movie in the world, but I thought it was pretty cool. So the experiments that they made Elle do was to me a lot like the tricks and things that they made Charlie do, the little girl character in the movie. I won't go too much into that or give any of the story away, but you see those flashbacks, and it was very reminiscent of, because Charlie didn't like doing them, and you could tell that Elle didn't like doing them either. So I really liked. I don't know if that's what their inspiration was. I know that Stephen King was the Duffer Brothers' inspiration for this show, so I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of drew from that a little bit. So I really liked that. That kind of, to me, reminded me of Firestarter. Also, another movie that there were some scenes that kind of took me back to watching these was Poltergeist. Have you seen Poltergeist?
I have seen Poltergeist, yeah.
Thank God, because I'm gonna say, come on, I'm gonna make a list of movies, and that's your weekend homework is to watch these movies. So Poltergeist, when that little girl Holly, Mike's little sister, was standing in front of the wall,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it's showing her from behind. So the camera is behind her, which reminded me very much of the scene in Poltergeist when Carol Ann in the beginning is sitting in front of the TV, and it's real snowy background. And I'm sorry for everyone who has no idea what a snowy background on a TV looks like. I don't have that anymore. But for those of us that remember, Carol Ann is sitting in front of this TV. It's a snowy background. She's just staring, and you just kind of see the back of her. And there's that hand that kind of comes out from the screen and just kind of touches her. And that reminded me of that little girl standing in front of that wall. She's just kind of staring there. And it's like it's almost like she can sense. She doesn't quite hear anything yet. You can't hear anything. You don't see anything yet, but it's like she knows something's there. Because I think children are pretty perceptive. Children, and I think animals are perceptive to things that maybe adults aren't so much because we're closed off to that. But I think children being innocent are more open to those kinds of things. And I think she kind of sensed that something was there. I think she kind of knew it probably wasn't very good by the look. She kind of looked scared, and then all of a sudden you see it come out like it did with Joyce. It kind of came out from the wall a little bit. Poor kid. And then that's when, Joyce scoops her up. But that scene reminded me very much of the scene in Poltergeist with Carol Ann.
Yeah, I know
And then,
exactly what you're talking about. Like, 'cause I was waiting for her to turn around and be like, "They're
yeah, they're
here."
here. I know that. Exactly. And then also from Poltergeist, that reminded me of in the movie when Diane, Carol Ann's mother, after, and I'm sorry, people, if you haven't seen Poltergeist, like I said, there is a limit on spoilers. This is a movie from the early 80s. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling anything, but go watch it.
I think once 2 decades have passed, then like, yeah, you're open for spoilers. There's no
Yeah,
warnings at that point.
say I hate spoilers and I don't like spoiling anything, but I gotta talk about this, and like I said, there's got to be a time limit. So Diane, throughout the movie, after Carol Ann has disappeared, she still can communicate with Carol Ann. You can hear her calling out to her throughout the house. You can hear Carol Ann responding to her. It's like she's there but not there. And I think that is a lot like what we see in Stranger Things with Joyce, who's communicating with Will, who's there but he's not there. It's like he's still existing somewhere, but she can't get to him, he can't get to her, and they're trying to communicate. Now, they didn't do anything with lights because they were actually able to hear Carol Ann speak, and she can't hear Will speak, but through the lights she's communicating. So that was, to me, a good throwback to how it was in Poltergeist. And I'm pretty sure that movie was an inspiration for a lot of the things. So I just really love that. So there might have been other things if I've left anything out. If anyone else has picked up anything interesting, I'd love to hear about it because I dig it. So
Yeah,
that's my number one.
I love the throwback. I didn't catch. I mean, once you readdress it, I kind of remember it again. But in the moment, I saw that. I don't think I wrote it down, but yeah, like I said, I was waiting for her to flip around and say, "We're here." That's pretty cool that they can make those callbacks.
Yeah, I love it. What's your number one?
All right, so my number one, there are very few shows I would say that after the episode ends, I either, turn off the TV or do something else and it just sticks with me. And I think the shows I can think of, Dexter definitely did
Mm-hmm.
that to me in one episode. And there's been a couple other ones, but this episode definitely did that to me. And I'm going to go with the very ending of the episode.
Yeah.
So, we see Hopper and them are in the library and they get a phone call and they say, "We need you to get down here quick." And, they rush down to the reservoir, the lake. And, to me, I'm thinking like, okay, like I think Will is this main character. So at that moment when they get there, Will is the very last thing in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're going through it, he runs down there and, I'm thinking it's Barb. Like, I'm like, okay, they found Barb because we know she got attacked. But as he gets down there, he did, again, we've talked a lot about how Hopper's a great character in this. And you see the agony on his face and he just says, it's like, "Please tell me it's not the kid." And, like in that moment, you're like, oh, is it Will? And the gang of his friends are down there too. And they're like, oh God, is that Will? Like, it can't be Will. And then they cut into the song in the background, which is we looked it up earlier. It's "We Can Be Here." It's "Heroes," and it's sung by Peter Gabriel.
Right.
And in that moment, like you're like, oh, he says like, "Don't tell me it's not," or please tell me it's not the kid. And right when they cut back to the guys in the water and they flip it over, like you see the red jacket that Will was wearing, and you see him lift this little kid up onto a thing, and
Oh, I know.
like very like I think I'm pretty good at keeping like shows and stuff like the reality. Like I'm watching something, so I don't get chilled or choked up very often.
Mm-hmm.
But this scene, like every time I've watched it like 3 times, I think just to like to make sure it wasn't just like that one time watching it, but every time
Mm-hmm.
once that song starts kicking in, the hair on the back of my neck sticks up. I get chills and I get choked up a little bit because it's really, I mean, it's one of those things that like this is a scary show, so I'm not expecting like this strong emotional thing to like just hit you right in the gut. Like, I'm expecting things to jump out and scare you. And this is a very like emotional moment that, if they can pull that off in a scary, this is essentially like a scary TV show, like a
Yeah.
horror TV show. And, usually in these type of things, like, when somebody dies or gets killed, like there's not really much motion tied to it. Like you just like, okay, well, that person's gone. And this character Will, like we've seen him on screen for what, 10 minutes, 15 at
Yeah.
the most.
If that, yeah.
And here he is showing up 3 episodes later, and you see that he's dead, and they play that song again. It's just like it's and they haven't even we haven't even got the interaction with his mom yet. Like that that's something we have to be prepped for because like they're gonna inform her. It's like no, Will's gone. Will died.
Uh-huh.
And I think again, just the perfect song for that is the Heroes with Peter Gabriel singing. And I was trying to figure out what else I heard this on because I'm like, okay, I've heard this before, and I've had this exact same kind of emotional reaction. And it was the movie Lone Survivor. They kind of play that at the end when they're showing the soldiers that were involved in that situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just you
Very
know,
emotional.
yeah, it's a tough thing, and I was trying to think like, okay, well, why did this hit so hard? And I don't want to sound like Brian from Family Guy when he had a son, because I don't know if you remember that episode. It's like he ends up thinking he has a son, and so everything's like a big deal.
Yeah.
Like Peter's like, yeah, watch this. And he says something about the TV, and Brian's like, oh my God, don't talk about that. Like now that you don't understand until you have a kid. You just don't understand until you have a kid. But I mean, in that moment, it's
But it's true.
yeah. I mean, my son's gonna be 2 in a little bit, and
Oh.
like in that moment, you're like, oh my God, like that's just a kid. Like how like devastating would it be to be in that situation? And maybe that's why it hit home a little harder. Or again, maybe it's just the great acting of Hoop Hopper and all the other things. But not to bring our top 5 down, but my number 1 would be that whole situation with Hopper and how that played out.
Yeah, you make some really good points. It's a really good number one. And I think just in that situation, and unfortunately, anytime you're dealing with, children and death, it's sad, I think, for anyone. But if you're a parent, I think it really hits you. I think anyone can be sad by that, and you don't have to have children to be sad by that. But I think if you are a parent, it does hit you because it is every parent's worst nightmare, for their child to go missing. And, you're hoping that they're just missing and that they're going to be found. And for this to be, what we see as an outcome of what's happened. Of course, we don't know exactly what has happened or how he's ended up there. But I think it was really sad, and it's probably a combination of everything because everybody's out looking for him. Everybody's working so hard to look for him, and then this happens. It's a combination of the good acting from everyone and the kids. You really believe those
Yeah.
kids, and the reaction that they're witnessing their best friend being pulled from the water. And that was sad to see their reaction because you can relate to that too. What if when you're a child and you have your childhood best friends, so you're seeing it at that level, you're seeing it from as a parent, if that were your child and you being in that situation, and how much, and then Hopper from his perspective, how much he's invested. It's not his child, but he feels, I think in a way he feels maybe not responsible, but he was working so hard to get to a good resolution and to find Will, and for this to be the outcome is definitely not what his goal was and not what he wanted. And he has to deal with that, I think, internally. And I think whatever's happened to his daughter, he's a parent as well, and he's seeing that. I think a whole combination, the music. I think music can really bring out emotion and amplify the situation. Because I've seen scenes where without like either turned down really low or with the sound off, and they're not nearly as emotional a lot of times until you turn the music on. Because
Yeah.
for me anyway, music is a big trigger, and so anytime a song like that that's very emotional, I think really triggers that situation and amplifies it. So I think you're right that there's probably a lot of factors that probably made it really emotional for you. But I think it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Is
Yeah, I
all
think
I'll
like
say.
like you said, the kids played a great part in that. I didn't even mention that, but like Mike, like he goes from, all the stages of grief, like he, is, denial and then anger, and finally he just leaves. And it's kind of that thing like, as a young boy, you're not supposed to cry. Like you're not supposed to show emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but there's been times when I was younger where things would happen, and you just you try to stay strong, and you end up just either it's your mom or your dad, and you just grab a hold of them, and you just burst into tears because somebody you love passed away, or there's been moments where I've been around that kind of situation, like, and when he gets home and his mom is like, again, like Ted doesn't jump up, like Ted really makes me mad now that I think about that part of it. But like he comes in and his mom like first went to the door with him, was like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And he just bursts into tears on his mom, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she probably knows or knows something's wrong, but it's just like that. You try to stay strong, but there's these just moments you just gotta kind of just let those emotions out, because I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that yeah, she was definitely there to kind of take that even and I don't know that they would have known yet exactly what had happened, but it looked like and I feel like I just got a flash because I think I was paying more attention to Karen, Mike's mom, more than I was the other looked like other set of parents. Was that Barb's parents?
I
That they were talking in there because
think
Nancy had
so.
come in and
Yeah.
she's crying after school and her mom's like, well, hey, you're home early, and she's crying, she's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And that's when she finally tells someone, I'm worried about Barb, I think Barb's missing. And so is that what was happening in the living room? Were they talking to Barb's parents and trying to figure out what's happening there? And now this whole situation with Will, sad.
Yep. So yeah, it's my number one, is just kind of the whole finding Will kind of scenario, or finding Will scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But so, did you have any extra notes?
I had a couple notes. We'll see. Since you brought us down, let's see if we can get it back up.
Yeah, I've got some good ones I think to get us back up. So
Yeah, why don't you start with some notes? What have you got?
okay. Well, the first one. So we find out that Jonathan gets found out with his stalkery pictures.
Did he ever?
And so they're by his car, and he comes out, and did he deserve his camera to get broken? Maybe not, but he kind of didn't not deserve it either. He did take creepy stalker pictures. He did get them made.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one that was kind of like, it's kind of 50-50 if you deserve that or not. At least they didn't beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, I don't know that he deserved to have his camera. Those cameras, those really nice ones, are very expensive.
That's true.
I know that, but I thought that was kind of an asshole move on Steve D, to use your term, to do that. But I think that being confrontational as far as like, dude, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Because it was creepy. Not only was he there and taking the pictures and he wasn't just yeah, he was out looking for his brother. It started out innocent enough, but he carried it into a little bit of a different place. And then he also then goes and gets them developed. There was nothing in those pictures of where he was
Yeah.
taking pictures of Nancy from, when she was up in the bedroom and removing her shirt. That was not going to help him find his little brother. I'm sorry.
Well, and getting them developed in a public like use room too is kind of like, lock the door, or, you got to do something.
Yeah, you need to be a little bit more cautionary when you're printing out stalker pictures. Of course, we have the convenience if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
You can do that from home now. You don't have to, you know. I'm looking at my collection of stalker pictures right now. But you're able to do that in the privacy of your own home. But yeah, exactly. It's probably not the best idea. I don't know that he really deserved that, but definitely he deserved to at least be called out
Yeah, for sure.
for it.
Called out
Yeah.
for it. Yeah. Quick thing I thought was interesting, that the bullies helped them find the monster killing rock. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like these boys are their monster to an extent. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And the other thing which I thought was funny, it's kind of to go back on with Steve the D and Nancy, when they're at the lunch table, and the other couple are making jokes about their sexual interaction the night before.
Ugh, hate
Um,
that.
yeah, and I kind of figures like, well, it probably lasted about as long as they were making the joke. So,
Pretty
you know.
much.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I had for notes. Oh, actually, one more thing. We also learned that the pool is heated because the one girl's getting some weird growth on her ankle.
Yeah, that was gross. Yeah, like Steve, he was like, I don't know what the hell that is, but get it off the table. It's gross. They're trying to lunch. I would be too. It's like gross. Even
Yeah.
if she doesn't have some weird looking thing on her ankle, get your damn foot off the lunch table. I'm trying to eat here. That's gross. Yeah, that I really disliked, like, I know we talked a little bit before about our schools and cliques, and I ended up moving in junior high to a little bit, it still was a very small school in comparison to many other people's schools that I'm sure could relate to. But it was still kind of small, but it did get a little bit cliquey in middle and high school. And I really disliked that type of crowd. Like, you know, just keep my business to myself.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would not appreciate having someone, blaring out to the whole lunchroom about, what was going on. I would have probably punched that girl in the face. Just, and Steve just like, he wasn't even like, oh, cool it guys. He just was just kind of like shrugging his shoulders, shaking his head like you
Yeah.
guys are, whatever. And I'm like, you're a tool, you need to, I don't know. To me, a guy should be honorable with the girl that he's with. Maybe they're not technically dating or technically girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, but you're sleeping with her at this moment. Stand up for her and have a little bit of honor and tell him to shut the hell up.
Yeah, I
That's
completely agree.
my thing. But
It's
that just shows his character. Like you said, Steve D.
Yep,
He has that name
Steve the
for a
D.
reason.
Yeah, I'm still kind of wondering. I don't know if he keeps the girls around for a little bit until they get tired of him or what. But I mean, I was expecting him to, the next day at school be like, "Oh, wait, you're Nancy who?"
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen that yet.
Not yet. I don't, we'll see what happens with that, but good notes. I have a couple. They're not too in depth. Just a couple things that I pointed out that were kind of cool. You mentioned earlier the Tom Cruise poster. That was definitely in my notes. Another poster that I noticed, and maybe it was seen previously, and I just kind of missed it because there were other things happening that were more interesting in the scenes. But I noticed this time around, anyway, in Mike's basement as they were all down there talking. I noticed a poster of The Thing, John
Oh
Carpenter's
yeah,
Thing. That I thought that was super cool because I really love that movie. So I saw that and thought that was really cool, and I was like, yes, The Thing. So that was nice. I also, whenever Nancy was at her locker and Steve had come up to her and her locker was open, she had a trapper keeper.
I saw that too.
And I'm like, where did they dig this up? Like, is there a warehouse of like this stuff from different eras, like the 60s and 70s and 80s when they're making these movies and TV shows that they're like, oh yeah, we got that in stock. We'll put that in as a prop. I'm like, where did they dig up this Trapper Keeper? Because yes, I had one and I thought I was the coolest kid on the block, even though everyone else had one too. Because everyone had trapper keepers, but whenever you got your trapper keeper, like when you went shopping for your school supplies and got your papers and your pencils and everything, and you got that trapper keeper, I carried that thing throughout the whole store. So excited. And it had a unicorn on it, people. It had it,
Nice.
yes. I've loved fantasy and unicorns and dragons and everything since as far as I can remember. So, yes, mine had a unicorn on it. I thought it was pretty cool. So, see that trapper keeper in her locker was definitely a nostalgic moment for me. Another thing that I noted, because you mentioned some other things already that I won't repeat that were in my notes that I thought was really good, but one really cool thing, we saw Dustin was like he's like talking about how Eleven's got these really cool powers, and he pops out this Millennium Falcon, and he's like, make it fly, concentrate, make it
I
fly.
forgot about
And
that.
she's just like looking at him like, are you an idiot? And he lets it go, and it drops on the floor. And then you see later, as she's, getting ready to kind of go and explore, she's sitting on the floor. I think they're sitting on the floor or on the couch, and you see that Millennium Falcon flying. They're just like floating in the air. And I thought,
And she
oh
looks
my
almost
God.
bored by it too. Like she's not like super focused. Just like, yeah, okay, I'm making it float.
Yeah, because she was just like, I think she even kind of looked away from it, like it was still floating, and she kind of got distracted from something, and it was still floating. And then when she was done with it, it kind of went crashing to the floor. And I thought, oh my God, who as a kid who had the Millennium Falcon or any toy like that didn't want to have that ability
Oh
to,
yeah.
make those things fly? Because how much cooler would that be than actually holding it and making it, zoom, zoom, fly around the room? So I thought that was super cool. All of us kids who had those types of toys, especially Millennium Falcon, how cool is that? Um, and making it fly. So just some cool little things that I thought were kind of 80s nostalgia and just kind of cool moments. And those are my notes.
Cool. Good notes.
Yeah, fun. So now for some news for Stranger Things, and I'll start off. The first article that we have is from Variety, and the title of the article is Netflix Issues Cease and Desist Order on Unauthorized Stranger Things Themed Bar. So the world is turning upside down for a Stranger Things themed bar in Chicago that has been ordered by Netflix to close its doors. The Upside Down pop up in Chicago, named after the dark parallel universe from the Netflix show, launched in August and became a hit. The bar serves drinks, including a syrup flavored cocktail called Eleven's Egos, and features decor that matches the show, like the Christmas light alphabet wall. Due to the bar's success, the owners had planned to extend their 6-week run to coincide with the premiere of Stranger Things Season 2. However, Netflix issued an albeit cheeky cease and desist letter. And just a little part of the letter, if everyone wants to read it, I'll post the full full article that you can read the letter if you want. But part of the letter that they have in the article says, "Unless I'm living in the Upside Down, I don't think we did a deal with you for this pop-up," the letter reads. "You're obviously creative types, so I'm sure you can appreciate that it's important to us to have a say in how our fans encounter the worlds we build. So the bar's owners and manager insist there are no hard feelings and plan to end the pop-up on October 1 as originally planned."
That seems kind of, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know either, because I see lots of Game of Thrones pop-up bars, kind of up everywhere. So, and I don't see, the Double D's chasing them down or HBO demanding that they shut them down. So I wasn't sure what to do about this either. I thought I could kind of see their point, but another way, it's, what's the harm?
Yeah, well, I know that, you think about sports bars, they're basically themed after sports teams, and I know there in LA there is a Star Wars themed bar, which is basically looks almost exactly like the Cantina, and I haven't heard anybody
What?
have any issues with that. Yeah,
George Lucas hasn't come banging on their door yet, demanding some royalties or something.
well, it's Disney now. Yeah,
Disney now,
Yeah,
yes, but still, George is a
Disney.
control freak.
Disney sends that mouse with that ball bat, and you got to answer. I heard you've been ripping us off. All right,
Yeah, I don't know.
the second story we have is from the Hollywood Reporter, and a source with knowledge of the Stranger Things world says Netflix had hoped to shoot seasons 3 and 4 back to back to get ahead of any potential awkward adolescent transitions for its young actors. Every time you have a show that relies so heavily on the charm of kids, you want to capture that, says this person, but the powers involved, including of course show creators Matt and Ross Duffer and executive producers Sean Levy and Dan Cohen, are said to have vetoed the idea. The writer's room is small, as is the roster of producers, and a source says they did not deem it possible to turn out episodes that quickly. All declined to comment. Instead, says the source, the plan is to create stories that feel true to where the actors are in terms of age at the time the episodes are shot.
Yeah. That's hard to do a show with kids. We've seen that with The Walking Dead, at least with Carl. There's not too many children, besides Judith, but they can just keep replacing babies.
They got 6 babies on routine.
Yeah, so they can just keep rotating babies, but with Carl, you can't rotate Carls, and you've seen how he's aged so quickly. So it's difficult to kind of do a show with kids. So I kind of see where they're kind of coming from, but I guess they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I heard a story about with it, they cut some scenes because of the fact that with kids, you only have so many hours you can shoot with them. And that was going to put them over budget because, if you can, I don't know what the hours is, but I think it's less than 8 a day. So, I mean, you have to think that's, you have to have crafts and services for more day. Like the shooting with kids is going to take, probably, I don't know, double the time.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
a lot of that stuff gets cut.
Yeah, they do. They have to get really creative, and they really have to utilize the time that they have those kids on set because of those child labor laws. That's for sure.
Yep. And that's why they love having twins because, you
Swap
get
them
double
out.
the time.
Swap them out. Oh, your 8 hours is up. All right, bring in the next one. Just keep them going. Okay, so the next article is from Variety. So after 5 wins at the Creative Arts ceremony earlier this month, Stranger Things was shut out of the acting categories, and they lost directing to Reed Morano. So Millie Bobby Brown, an expert's pick to win, lost supporting dramatic actress to The Handmaid's Tale and Dowd, for example, while David Harbour, who plays Hopper for anyone that doesn't know, lost supporting actor to The Crown's John Lithgow. So, in fact, Netflix overall fits into this category as after 91 nominations, the second most overall, the streamer only brought home 20 awards. So bummer that the Emmys, they happened as we're recording this on Tuesday, just happened this Sunday, this past Sunday that just passed anyway. And so bummer, Stranger Things did not get anything from that one, but they did pretty well at the Creative Arts. Let's hope for a better year next year. So bummer.
20 awards is still good though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely good. They really racked up some other, like last year they did really good, like the SAG Awards and stuff. There's still lots of awards, to kind of come around, and plenty of love to show that show.
All right, so another article from Variety. So the Warner Brothers classic film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory will get the live in-concert treatment this November 3rd and 4th with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in concert at the Hollywood Bowl, a live-to-film celebration. Stranger Things and It star Finn Wolfhard will play Charlie Bucket with John Stamos singing Pure Imagination as Willy Wonka. I don't know how I feel about that. And Weird Al Yankovic as the Oompa Loompas. Ellie King will take on the odious Veronica Salt singing I Want It Now with Giancarlo Esposito as the Candyman, Ingrid Michaelson as Miss Bucket, and Richard King as Grandpa Joe. John
Yeah.
Stamos as Willy Wonka. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one.
I don't know either. This was a last minute ad because it just came out this afternoon as I was putting all of this stuff together, and I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. Finn Wolfhard's definitely like a hot commodity right now. He's really great in Stranger Things, as did all the kids. But he was in It, and he was so fantastic in that. I mean, as all the kids were in It, I feel. But he's definitely a hot commodity. So this was kind of a last minute ad I thought was kind of interesting. And I'm not sure how I feel about that either. It was, and with Weird Al Yankovic and, and Giancarlo Esposito, do you know who that is?
Who is that?
He was in Breaking Bad. He was Gus
Okay.
in Breaking Bad. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
I haven't.
Sean,
Sorry.
look, I'm sending you a list after we finish recording. You have homework. No, it's okay. But he was in Breaking Bad, Giancarlo Esposito. He played Gus Fring in that, and I won't say anything more because I feel there's still many people who haven't watched it as of you, of course, so I won't spoil anything. But really great character from Breaking Bad.
It was pretty cool though with Finn because I mean you look at the character he plays in It compared to what he plays in Stranger Things compared to Charlie. Those are all three very different characters.
They are.
So I'd be interested in watching this.
Yeah, I think at least to catch a snippet, I don't know that I care so much about other people, but if I can catch a clip of at least him in this role, I think that would be really fun. 'Cause, yeah, it's very interesting. He's really, I don't know how old he is in real life. I know like about the age he's playing on the show and what he played in It, but I don't know his true age. But he's really like stretching himself for such a young actor. It'll be interesting to see where, as he continues, and it's interesting that he's been able to do so much. I don't know the shooting schedule for Stranger Things. They only had, for season 1, they had 8 episodes. For season 2, they had 9. So at least it's not something like Network where they're shooting 20-something shows, or even something that is on HBO that's maybe 13 episodes and where they have longer shooting schedules. But it's nice that he's got some freedom, to kind of stretch his acting
Yeah.
wings, so to say. So, yeah, interesting. We'll have to be watching out for that. Comes out in a couple weeks, I guess. Or not a couple weeks, sorry, it's in November. Stay tuned. Okay, so we've got a little bit of listener feedback. So letters from the Upside Down, and this is feedback. This first one that I have is feedback specific from episode 2 that we had. So this is from Doug Taylor. Regarding the episode title, I always thought it referred to the Twilight Zone episode, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, in which the whole street loses power one night and they believe it to be the result of an alien invasion. As I recall, one house on the street suddenly regains power and its lights come on, so the neighbors believe the monster must be in there. So that was kind of referring to the weirdo on, what was
Maple
that street?
Street.
Maple Street.
Yeah.
So yeah, thought that was interesting. Did you see that? Are you familiar much with Twilight Zone or have seen the episode?
I've had my buddy tell me about that one. It's like I think it's supposed to be like this alien social experiment that goes on. So the aliens actually take away all the power, and then they like slowly start giving other houses power. And so then like the society's like, oh well, this person must have been the one to take the power, and now they're working with this person, and basically like chaos just breaks out, and the aliens are like, oh man, these humans are just not worth dealing with, and leave.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, aliens creep me out too. Thanks, Doug.
So Steve Brown said, loved it. I appreciate Winona Ryder's acting even more this time around. I'm watching episode 4 right now because I can't wait. Sorry. Well, Steve, give us that information for our next episode. We love the feedback.
Love the feedback. So yeah, make sure you come right back and let us know what you think about episode 4 because we'll definitely be doing that one next. Des Combs says, this was probably the most emotional episode of the series. When they find the body, the looks in the kids' faces are heart-wrenching. On the lighter side, I loved the nostalgia as 11 ran through the channels, ending on Coke is it. I also really want to fill my house with Christmas lights. I'm with you, Des. Thanks.
Ashley Snow, loved the episode. I was very angry with Papa for the horrible experiments on 11, especially the one with the cat. But I like the way that they introduced the flashbacks. The use of the lights is impactful, from Holly following the lights down the hall to Joyce's Xmas tree ABC light decoder. Run to the flashing patrol car lights. They really set a mood. Jonathan totally creeps me out. I agree with that. I am sympathetic to his character, but the actor does such a great job making him an awkward, socially stunted teen.
Yeah, good point there, Ashley. I agree. Kristen Howell says, such a solid episode. Watching Joyce design a way to communicate with Will was fantastic. Winona Ryder nails the desperation a mother would so clearly feel to find her child. Poor Barb. Moral of the story, leave your friend if she ditches you for a dude. Go home and don't sit alone in the dark when a kid is missing in your town.
Well, like you said, this is the reverse of all horror movies. Like, Barb was the good girl, and Nancy was being a little bit of a...
She was being a naughty girl. Naughty girls win.
Yep.
Whoop, whoop.
See, if Barb just tried to be a little bit more naughty, she might still be alive.
Sorry, I love you, Barb, but what can I say?
See, in our last one we got from Jillian Moreau. So watching Joyce do everything she could to communicate with Will was heartbreaking. Being a mom definitely made her portrayal more real for me. And poor Barb. See, Nancy, no good can come from getting with Steve D. I'm enjoying the flashbacks for background story as well.
That's awesome. Thanks, everyone, for writing in and giving us your feedback. We absolutely love it. Please don't be shy and keep writing in. We love hearing what you guys think. Everyone brings such an interesting perspective that we really appreciate hearing. So thank you, everyone that took the time to write in. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Okay.
All right, so for next week's episode, next week we will be covering the 4th episode from Season 1 titled Chapter 4, The Body. The description for the episode is, refusing to believe Will is dead, Joyce tries to connect with her son. The boys give 11 a makeover. Jonathan and Nancy form an unlikely alliance.
Give us just a little bit and nothing at all.
Yep. Vague as always.
As always. Well, of course, wouldn't want to ruin it, right? Well, we're really excited for you to travel to Hawkins, Indiana with us. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter at StrangeTcast.
You can like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/strangertcast.
You can email us at strangerthingscastpod@gmail.com.
You can find Strange Indeed and a bunch of other great podcasts like Under the Comic Covers at podcastica.com. Go out and leave a review for Strange Indeed on Apple Podcasts and any of the other great Podcastica podcasts.
Yeah. And make sure to check out Shawn in his other podcast. What? The Language of Bromance, that comes out every Sunday.
All right, well, that's our show. Episode 3, Chapter 3, Holly Jolly.
Until next time, I'm Rima.
And I'm Shawn.
And Kristen Howell is strange indeed.
Joyce.
Just ring me up, Donald.